Hey guys, this is Tealus here. Welcome back to the Heart of Azeroth. This is the class order haul for Shamans, and this is part 2 of the 2-video series taking a look at Enhancement Shamans, this brand new spec that Blizzard has introduced in World of Warcraft Legion. I say brand new because literally everything has changed for an Enhancement Shaman. You will notice many of the same spell icons, old spell icons making their returns, but everything interacts differently and it really plays and feels like a brand new specialization for Enhancement, for all Shamans in general, I should say. So, in this video, in the first video, we looked at the abilities and the removed, changed new abilities for an Enhancement Shaman, and we looked at the artifact weapon Doomhammer. In this video, we will look at the PvP and PvE talents, and I will tell you that pretty much everything is brand new in the PvP and PvE talents. So, let's go ahead and get into it. In the first tier, I will have to say, I've been so excited about this. I actually did go in and actually participate in a battleground beforehand. Usually I don't because it takes so long to get in, and then you can only change your talents at the very beginning. You can't change it throughout, and there's some really cool stuff for an Enhancement Shaman in World of Warcraft Legion in terms of PvP. But first, let's get to the PvE talents. First, we have this 15 tier. We'll start with Hot Hand, which is the ability I've selected at the moment, and it is your melee attacks with Flame Tongue active. Melee attacks with Flame Tongue active also make your next Lava Lash cost no Maelstrom and deal 100% increased damage. So this was probably demonstrated several times, but if you've forgotten already from the first video, Maelstrom weapon is just an automatic buff that you buff on yourself, and it's already been procced right here. You can see it in the top right hand corner. There's my Lava Lash proc, and then there we go. Pretty simple. The second option here is going to be Wind Song. You lash out at your enemy. Well, first let's go with Boulder Fist because it's a lot lower cooldown. We have Boulder Fist, which will replace Rock Biter. It slams your target with the power of stone, dealing 84,000 nature damage and enhancing your weapons for 10 seconds, increasing all critical strike chance by 10% and all damage you deal by 8%. You have a 28, it generates 28 Maelstrom, but it's on a 5.54 second cooldown. To be honest, this is a fantastic trade-off. This is awesome. Your base is 42,000 and generates 13 Maelstrom, but you have no cooldown on it. Boulder Fist changes that. So you have 2 charges on this, and it gives you another buff. So not only do you have the Flame Tongue buff, and you have the Frostbrand buff, but you also have the Boulder Fist buff now. And you're going to deal more, you're going to generate more Maelstrom out of it as well. As I've noticed, as I've been kind of, testing Enhancement Shaman, I really am not having too much trouble with Maelstrom. So switching into Boulder Fist is actually a really great idea.
I'm out of range.
So I'm going to go ahead and use this here. And once again, as a 10-yard range, so these abilities have a long range, which is really great. But I'm going to get all my buffs up here on this. So I have 3 buffs. I have the Frostbrand, I have Boulder Fist, and I have the Flame Tongue buff all active now on the target. And then I can start really just using the power abilities, which is going to be your Storm Strike and your Lava Lash. And I believe for AoE, mostly speaking, is going to be Crash Lightning. So that's definitely an option that is open to you. The third ability here is going to be Wind Song. Lashes your enemy for 46,000 nature damage and enhances your weapons with wind, increasing your attack speed by 20% for 15 seconds. So this is a separate ability. However, it is a 45-second cooldown and it lasts for 15 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and use it right here. And we'll use it right there. You can see the little kind of uppercut. And I have the buff on me, and I'm now attacking faster and so forth. So that is Wind Song. Personally, out of the 3, I really do like Boulder Fist. Boulder Fist is my favorite of the 3. But let's go ahead and take a look into the next tier. First, before we get into the others, we have Feral Lunge. This is a charge. Enhancement Shamans have been asking for this forever. So, I promise you that, even though you're losing a ton, and to be honest, several of those were more elemental detrimental to elemental than they were to enhancement, such as Earthbind Totem is more something that hurts elemental than it does enhancement. You now have a charge with Feral Lunge, and I'm going to go ahead and show it to you right here. I already have it activated. As you can see, I'll just charge in, and then there's my Feral Lunge. Pretty cool. Your second ability is called Rainfall. This is kind of your replacement for not having Healing Rain. At least I think I remember that's what the name. Yes, it's Healing Rain. So this is your replacement for Healing Rain. It is Rainfall. Blankets the target area in healing, restoring 30,000 health up to 6 allies over 10 seconds. Storm Strike and Lava Lash extend the duration of Rainfall by 3 seconds up to a maximum of 30 seconds. Honestly, it's a ground targeted. PvP is usually too active for something to stay on the ground for very long, for you to actually stay in this area for very long. So I just don't see it being very popular of a talent to take. In PvE though, this is something that will easily probably be the most popular talent to take, because it just gives you an immense amount of utility in terms of helping out your raid. I mean, we'll get to Windrush Totem here in a second, but honestly, I just don't see a situation in which Rainfall isn't taken by a PvEer. It's just better than Feral Lunge, unless you're trying to jump in there real quick and get your burst DPS off the ground real quickly. Really, Rainfall just offers too much in terms of kind of peripheral support to your healers. The last talent here is Windrush Totem. This is a derivative of the old Windwalk Totem. The old Windwalk Totem would basically remove it would give them all immunity to movement impairing effects. This does a little bit differently. It gives everyone increased movement speed. So I'm going to go ahead and use this here. This is one of the very few totems that Enhancement Shamans have access to. So it is a targeter, and I'll use it. As you can see, I can move real fast. I'll move out of range, and I have 4 seconds of that quick movement speed, and then it'll go away, and then I can move back in range of the totem, and I will have that movement speed. This is something I expect to see in rated battlegrounds. This is the only place I will expect an enhancement shaman to have Windrush. That's the only place I expect it. Otherwise, I expect every other, even those who are in a rated battleground, I still just expect to see Feral Lunge, because it's a charge. It's something that enhancement needs. And even though there are multiple ways to kind of lock down your opponent and so forth, it's just Feral Lunge is just too strong for a PvP option. In the 4th tier, this should look pretty familiar. Lightning Surge Totem is the lame new name for Capacitor Totem. Otherwise, it functions exactly the same, and it is one of like 3 talents in this entire talent tier that is still the same. And even then, the name has changed. So this is your Capacitor Totem. Capacitor Totem used to be baseline. It is now a talent. Earth Grab Totem has not changed. You have lost Earthbind Totem, but Earth Grab Totem is still here, so if you still want this, you can still grab it. In all honesty, I don't see Enhancement taking Earth Grab. They could, but honestly, I can see Lightning Surge being taken more often, just because you're able to dance around and stun them, as opposed to Earth Grab, which is more like kind of just a snare and a peel, which is something Elemental Shamans want. The third option here, though, is Voodoo Totem, and this replaces Hex. I really don't see too many PvEers taking this, because Hex is a minute cooldown, whereas Voodoo Totem, you summon a totem at the target destination for 10 seconds. The totem hexes all enemies within 8 yards into frogs, which are incapacitated and unable to attack and cast spells. Damage or leaving the area will interrupt the effect. Now, I can find there are some pretty powerful PvE uses for this totem. If there's a kind of a dangerous situation in which all of a sudden a whole bunch of ads come in that you can actually CC, the Voodoo Totem can take care of this, okay? And basically give an 8-second breather for your healers. But for the most part, I mean, in all honesty, in a raid situation, you don't really have great choices in this talent. So you have Earth Grab, which is mostly a PvP, could be used in PvE, but mostly PvP. Same thing with Lightning Surge Totem or Capacitor Totem. It's the same type of situation there. Voodoo Totem is really your go-to thing in PvE. The problem is that if you're a dungeon PvEer, or I mean, if you're specifically into dungeons, this is not going to be the talent for you because you are giving up your big CC in Hex for this Voodoo Totem. Honestly, I could see this being used a whole lot more if it didn't replace Hex, but since it does, it kind of stinks. I'll go ahead and use it here. You'll see it's kind of small, but its radius is looks like 8 yards. So I'll use it, and you'll see it's got this wonderful spell visual, this purple orange spell visual. It does look kind of nasty if you were going to get hexed in that area. So that's what you can use to hex a whole bunch of enemies at the same time. In the 60 tier, we have good old Lightning Shield. Surround yourself with a shield of lightning for 1 hour, which has a chance to deal 7,600 nature damage when you deal or take melee damage. So this is Lightning Shield. It's just your Lightning Shield. The only issue I have with this is that one of the passives, I believe it was Storms. I think it's Stormbringer. I believe it is Stormbringer. But Stormbringer has the same type of passive. I took it off. Let's see if I can get Stormbringer up so I can show you what I am talking about. There it is right there. That's it right there. And it's Stormlash, sorry, not Stormbringer. So it has the same spell visual icon as Lightning Shield. And that's kind of frustrating to have two of the same orbs. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, they look the same. So hopefully Blizzard will go through and kind of fix that and make them a little bit different. In the second ability here, we have Ancestral Swiftness. Before Ancestral Swiftness was an actual activated ability, it was 1.5 minute cooldown, increases haste and attack speed by 5% at all times. That was base, and then when you activated your next nature spell with a casting time less than 10 seconds became instant. Now it's just 10% haste and 10% attack speed baseline, that's it. Your last option here is Hailstorm. Frostbrand now also enhances your weapon's damage, causing each of your weapon's attacks to deal 2,000 frost damage. This is just a straight damage buff. And probably for PvEers, it's going to be between Ancestral Swiftness and Hailstorm. It depends on how detrimental putting Frostbrand into the rotation actually is. Because Frostbrand technically is really only a PvP thing because you want to slow movement speed. But if it's easy to insert into the rotation Frostbrand weapon, it's got a 15-second cooldown, so it's the same as Flame Tongue. I can see this being taken. Otherwise, Ancestral Swiftness will be probably the choice, whereas Lightning Shield may be more of the PvP choice, or you may take Hailstorm as your PvP choice instead. In the 75 tier, we have Tempest. Stormbringer now affects the next 2 Storm Strikes, if you are unsure as a Stormbringer. Stormbringer is the ability that resets your Storm Strike ability on your bars. So let's see if we can get this to come up here so we can show exactly what we're talking about here. If we can get this to proc just once for us. In the meantime, while we're waiting for it to proc, I'll pull up the ability so you know exactly what we're talking about. This is Stormbringer. Each of your main hand attacks has a 6% chance to reset the remaining cooldown of Storm Strike and cause your next Storm Strike to cost 50% less Maelstrom and trigger no cooldown. So we are trying to get it to proc. Let's see if we can get it to proc. I'm only going to try this for a little bit longer because I don't want to sit here all day and extend the video for a very long time. Because then that would be a waste. I'll continue to hit this thing while we look at... There it is right there. I have 2 charges of Storm Strike. Right as I was about to leave. And considering... And I got another proc after that, right after that. Considering the cool effects that come off of Doomhammer from the weapons, I actually kind of like that. So that's something to consider there. The second option here is Overcharge. Your Lightning Bolt, which you guys know is instant cast and... You know, it does like pitiful damage. I mean, I can launch it here. Actually, I launched it without, before I could explain this here. But Lightning Bolt now consumes up to 60 Maelstrom for an additional 1,500% increased damage. But as an 8.3 second cooldown. So let's real quick. Let's build up here. We have 84,000 damage, 185,000 damage. Okay, now let's use Lightning Strike. 132,000 damage. That's what you can expect out of it. So basically, it gives you a long-ranged damage ability. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, it's useful, but it's not. I honestly think these talents are going to be better. The other one here you have is Empowered Stormlash. Stormlash now spreads to one additional target and deals 30% additional damage. Once again, I'm going to be bringing these up over and over again just so you guys can see, because these are new passives and this spec has changed so much, just so you understand. While your weapons are enhanced, your attacks have a chance to grant Stormlash up to 2 party or raid members for 8 seconds, causing attacks and spellcasts to deal additional damage. So if you're talking about AoE in a PvE setting, Empowered Stormlash is going to be what you are probably going to go with. I don't know how Overcharge fits into a rotation, so in terms of PvE, I don't see that being as effective as something as Tempest, which is really powerful because having 2 Stormbringer procs is pretty potent, especially with all the buffs that come through Doomhammer. So honestly, in this tier, I would definitely take Tempest out of the 3. In the next tier, we have Crashing Storm. Crash Lightning also electrifies the ground, leaving an electrical field behind which damages enemies within it for 44,000 nature damage over 6 seconds. I was wondering where this went. I have tested Enhancement Shaman several times, and this talent was eluding me, or this ability was eluding me. I thought that maybe they had kind of dumbed down on the visual effects, but I was wrong. I just didn't have the talent activated. So let's go ahead and show this to you here. It's a pretty cool spell visual now. You have this electrified ground here, which is really cool. Once again, Crash Lightning is really kind of your AoE ability. And so in that and in conjunction with your Stormlash are basically going to be your AoE abilities. So really cool kind of tool there for you to use, though, if you would like to take it. Though it compares with these other abilities. First is Fury of the Air. Costs 5 Maelstrom plus 5 per second. Creates a vortex of wind 8 yards around you, dealing 6,300 damage every 1 second to enemies caught within the storm, slowing them by 30% for 3 seconds. I don't really agree with the slow. I'll go ahead and use it right now. You can see it right here. I mean, that's a pretty large area. But if you're in PvP, you're going to have Frostbrand activated. So you're already going to have a slow. So this is just overkill. And then unless this does significant damage per Maelstrom and does not deplete your Maelstrom too quickly, I don't see this being taken in PvE. I could be wrong. It's a toggleable ability, but you know, it all depends on what is the best AoE. You know, whether this Crashing Storm is better, because 44,000 nature damage over 6 seconds, or you have to deal with this, in which you're paying 5 Maelstrom plus 5 per second for 6,300. So just to give you an idea, 6 seconds, you're basically expending 30 Maelstrom for 3,600 damage, or you get basically 44,000 damage out of a Crash Lightning. Plus the enhancements and everything, I honestly would probably lean more towards Crashing Storm. The last option here, though, is Sundering. Shatters a line shatters a line of earth in front of you with your main hand weapon, causing 200,000 physical damage and knocking enemies to the side. This is your PvP option. This is just, it's too strong to not be a burst PvP option. So I'm going to go ahead and show this to you. This is, you know, straight out of the book from Here's the Storm Enthrall. Here's Sundering. As you can see there, you have a mini little just puncture there. It costs 60 Maelstrom, so I don't know how popular it will be in PvE because of that. But because it does so much damage here, it has burst potential. I mean, and that's why I consider it being used in PvP more than I do PvE. However, I will say for this tier, though, I do think you have legitimate choices in Crashing Storm and Fury of the Air, maybe, and then maybe Sundering. It depends. Maybe for single target in PvE settings, Sundering will be more the option, and then Crashing Storm in an AoE situation will be more of the option. All of this depends on how much Maelstrom really drains you in Fury of the Air. And I'll leave that up to the PvE theory crafters and so forth to figure out which one is the better one to use. So, with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the level 100 tier. We have Ascendance. You guys know how Ascendance works. It functions exactly the same. Air Ascendant for an Enhancement Shaman. You're a stud for 15 seconds, basically. In the second tier here, we have a Landslide. Boulder Fist now enhances your weapon, increasing your attack power by 20% for 10 seconds. So, if I didn't have Boulder Fist activated, it would now be Rock Biter. But now it's Boulder Fist. So just think about this. You now have Boulder Fist, which increases your critical strike chance by 10% and all damage you deal by 8%, and then your attack power by 20%. All for 10 seconds, in addition to your other enhancements. This is pretty powerful. We'll go ahead and use this here. You can see I'm going to start blowing up just because I have so many enhancements on myself. As you can see in the top right hand corners, I've got buffs everywhere on this character. Everywhere. And that's what makes it so great. And Lava Lash is basically my Maelstrom dump when I can't use Storm Strike, and I have plenty of Maelstrom. I'm able to use Lava Lash as my dump. And you can sort of see how the rotation basically is here. You make sure that your Maelstrom is top off. You make sure that your Flame Tongue is on the target. If the rotation is okay and you decide to go Hailstorm, maybe Frostbrand has to be up, and then you go ahead and use Lava Lash a lot, and then you use Storm Strike procs when they come through. That is basically what you can expect out of an Enhancement Shaman. But that's what Landslide does. It's pretty powerful and potent, and I personally do really like it. The last option here is Earthen Spike. It summons an Earthen Spike under the enemy, dealing 101,000 physical damage and increasing physical and nature damage you deal to the target by 10% for 10 seconds. So, in case you haven't realized, a lot of enhancement is about enhancing yourself. Ha ha. Okay, I'm sorry for that. But basically, when it comes down to it, just imagine, we'll put Hailstorm here, just for the sake of things. We have the buff off of Rockfighter, we have the buff off of Flame Tongue, we have the buff off of Frostbrand, we have the buff off of Earthen Spike now. And then all of that combined together, then you can start doing, and then in an AoE situation, you have the buff off of Crash Lightning, and then you start using these other abilities. And you just have so many buffs stacked onto you, you start dealing a lot of damage. This, a lot of people say a lot of the abilities have been dumbed down. This is really becoming complex as an Enhancement Shaman. It's much more complex, in my opinion, than Enhancement Shaman has ever been, ever in the history of World of Warcraft. We have gone from just praying for a Wind Fury proc to having, to kind of juggle all of these different enhancement procs, which I think is great for the game, and that is one of the reasons why I am absolutely enjoying this. So, once again, let me just show you what this looks like, in case you didn't get to see spell visual very well. It's just a rock that just jumps out of the ground, stabs the target. Looks like it really hurt in real life, but considering some of the other spell visuals I've seen, maybe it wouldn't hurt as bad to all these heroes out here. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the PvP talent tree. As with all PvP talent trees, the first two tiers are the same, and then the last four tiers are basically more Shaman specific. Starting with the first tier, it's going to deal with your Honorable Medallion. You'll gain an Honorable Medallion after you join PvP combat for the first time. I don't think I have an Honorable Medallion with me, but you were supposed to get one when you first get into PvP, and that's what you will have for your trinket. It has a 3-minute cooldown. You can choose to take Gladiator's Medallion and bring it down to a 2-minute cooldown like you normally do, so you can have your 2-minute trinket. How these talents will work, you'll start at level 1, and you will level all the way up to 50. And Gladiator's Medallion will be at level 1. and then you'll work your way down hardiness, Sky Fury Totem, all the way down to shamanism, and then you'll start up again at adaptation and go all the way down to leader of the clan, and then rinse and repeat for the final tier. The last ability, I believe, comes in at level 46. At level 50, you can choose to prestige and start all over again at level 1, or you can just say, I'm done, I want all of my talents here, that's all I really care about, and you'll just stick there. And that's how it'll go. So, with that out of the way, as I said, Gladiator's Medallion is the 2-minute trinket, basically. Replaces your Honorable Medallion. You don't have two. It replaces your Honorable Medallion, so you have a 2-minute trinket. Your second option is Adaptation, which is my favorite for PvP DPS, which is all loss of control effects with a duration of 5 seconds or more will activate your Honorable Medallion spell, but only cause it to incur a 60-second cooldown. That gives you a 60-second trinket. I know a lot of people like more control over things, and so they may not want to do that. Healers especially, I would not take Adaptation, because you desperately do need to have control over when you can trinket out of stuff. However, for DPS, I think it's a pretty good trade. Do know that if you do decide to activate your Honorable Medallion, 3-minute cooldown, Adaptation will be gone for 3 minutes. The last option of the tier is Relentless. It will replace your Honorable Medallion, but the duration of incoming crowd control effects will be reduced by 25%. This is something I really only see tanks taking, because they're the only ones who are able to survive pretty decently and have a talent like this. In the second tier, we have the baseline melee tier. This is the same for all melee DPS. First, you have Hardiness. While above 80% health, you take 20% less damage. You have Reinforced Armor, health increased by 10%. And then you have Sparring. Physical melee attacks have a 20% chance to be blunted, dealing 50% reduced damage. Come to think of it, in my last BG game that I played to actually test things out, I probably should have had Sparring, because I had to deal with a really nasty Havoc Demon Hunter that liked to blow all of his cooldowns on me just to kill me. It was kind of frustrating. In the third tier, we start getting into the Shaman-specific talents, and here really is the only place you're going to find a totem other than that that Windrush totem in your PvE talent tree. You have an option of 3. First is your Sky Fury totem, 45-second cooldown, summons a fire totem with 5 health at the feet of the caster for 15 seconds. That increases the critical effect, damage, and healing spells of all nearby allies within 40 yards by 30% for 15 seconds. Most totems come basically with a wonderful large health pool. In fact, the health pool is generally as large as you. That's the way it is on the other specs. However, these PvP ones, considering how powerful they are, they can be stomped. So be careful with the Sky Fury totem. The second totem is the Counter-Strike totem. Summons an air totem with 10 health. I don't know why this one's 10 and Sky Fury is 5. Don't ask me. Summons an air totem with 10 health at the feet of the caster for 1 minute. Whenever enemies within 20 yards of the totem deal damage, the totem will deal 100% of the damage dealt back to the lowest health enemy within range of the totem. I love this totem because it's just nothing great brings you greater pride than having one of the opponents kill their own teammate. And so that's why I like this totem. There's the Wind Fury totem. Summons a totem with 5 health at the target destination for 1 minute. If the totem is destroyed, Wind Fury totem incurs a 30-second cooldown. Wind Fury totem enchants all allies within 10 yards weapons with wind, causing attacks to have a 40% chance to generate an additional 3 attacks dealing. It gives everyone Wind Fury, dealing 7,400 physical damage. Gives everyone Wind Fury, and when they say if it's destroyed, it incurs a 30-second cooldown, that means that you can recast it wherever, and then when it's destroyed, it has a 30-second cooldown. I'm pretty sure, well, it lasts for a minute. So after a minute has expired, you will lose it, and then you have the 30-second cooldown. But if it's destroyed, then the 30-second cooldown starts right away. In the third tier, we have Ethereal Form. This replaces your Astral Shift. So I don't know if you want to do this. But this is if you're having trouble with melee. You turn Ethereal, making you immune to all physical damage, but unable to attack, and your movement speed is reduced by 50%. You're vulnerable to magic, receiving 200% increased damage, lasts for 15 seconds. Use Ethereal Form again to shift out. I think this is a terrible talent. And the reason is because, I mean, if you look at me as an enhancement shaman, think of how many abilities I have that are not physical. Think of a rogue's poisons. Think of a frost death knight. I mean, that the last video to come out, a frost death knight. Every single thing that comes out of a frost death knight is frost damage. Um, you can really, I mean, you would think this is like an anti-melee type of thing, but in the end, it really isn't as great as you may think. The only thing I can see it really being useful against maybe is a Mark's Hunter. I mean, that's really the only thing that I can think of. This can be very useful against a Mark's Hunter. Otherwise, for the most part, I'm not a big fan of this talent. There's Spectral Recovery. While in Ghost Wolf form, you heal for 4% health every 2 seconds, so that is very nice, especially since Ghost Wolf is instant cast. Just instant cast, start healing yourself. And then there's Swelling Waves. This is what I used in my BG. When you cast Healing Surge on yourself, you are healed again for the same amount 3 seconds later. I'm not sure if I would take this, though do remember that Healing Surge is instant cast if you have 20 Maelstroms, so Swelling Waves can get you a lot of more bang for your buck in terms of healing than you would normally get. In the 5th tier, we have Forked Lightning. When you use Storm Strike, you conjure bolts of lightning to up to 2 furthest enemies within 40 yards, dealing 76 nature damage. I hate this talent. Why in the world would I care about, conjuring lightning on enemies? I mean, you think about BGs and you're on one target, you're trying to focus them down, and you have a talent that attacks some dude in the back that like has 100% health and no one's focusing. I don't like it at all, and I just don't see anyone taking this until it's changed. There's Static Cling. After you use Storm Strike twice in a row on an enemy, you create a coil of lightning binding you to the target, increasing the damage the target receives from your attacks by 15%, and increases your movement speed by 15% while the cling holds. If your target moves further than 15 yards from you, the cling will break. This is another failed talent. This is really a bad tree right here. These 5. These 3 abilities right here. And it may be just because I was facing Havoc Demon Hunters, which it takes them like 2 seconds to get out of that 15-yard range. No matter what type of lockdown you have on them, it takes them no time at all to get out of that range. I feel like if they get further than 15 yards, there needs to be a stun, and then it will be useful. Kind of like you get too far from me, 1 second stun. I think that would be useful. But in its current iteration, it wasn't worth anything in the BG, because Demon Hunters and even Windwalker Monks for that matter are able to dash in and out, in and out, in and out, and the mages with blinks and so forth, and it just, your Storm Strikes twice in a row generally require, you need full Maelstrom, you first need a proc. That's the only way you're going to get the double Maelstrom, so you have to get the proc, which, in a PvP setting takes longer because it requires auto attacks. It's a 6% chance on those auto attacks. And then when you actually get those procs, to actually get the Static Cling to work, to actually execute correctly, it's just too easy to get out of it. So 2 really bad abilities back to back. The third one here is Ride the Lightning. When you use Storm Strike, you also cast Chain Lightning on the target. It's kind of underwhelming, but it's by far the best one in this tree. For a PvP talent, it is by far the best one in this tree. Maybe I'm missing something as an Enhancement Shaman. I haven't played an Enhancement Shaman in a long time, but Forked Lightning just seems like it's useless, and Static Cling really has issues, especially with the mobility of characters, a lot of the heroes and classes in the game. So Ride the Lightning would be my choice if you were ever to go into a PvP situation. Probably the coolest talent period that I've seen, I think, ever, is this. Shamanism. Your Bloodlust spell now has a 45-second cooldown, but only affects you and your friendly target when cast for 10 seconds. In addition, Bloodlust is no longer affected by exhaustion. So that means you get a 10-second Bloodlust every 45 seconds, you and your buddy. This is going to be used in arenas, and it can be pretty powerful in rated battlegrounds. This is awesome. I was using this. It was so cool to be able to just use Bloodlust whenever. I generally play on Alliance, so having Heroism whenever. Heroism is one of my favorite sound effects that they ever put in the game. It's just so cool. I'm so excited for this, and so I'm really impressed with this ability. The second one you have here is Leader of the Clan. When you use Storm Strike, you enchant up to 3 allies or yourself within 10 yards with Storm Lash. I'm not really liking this one either. It's like an AoE buff in PvP. It seems like there's a lot of situations in which some of the PvP talents should be switched out with PvE and vice versa. Like maybe taking something like Feral Lunge and removing that from this tree and replacing it with something in this tree. And that, this is possibly one of them. Just so you guys understand, we'll double check so you guys understand what Stormlash is. Your weapons have enhanced your attacks, have a chance to grant Stormlash up to 2 party or raid members for 8 seconds, causing attacks and spellcasts to deal additional nature damage. So basically, it's an AoE buff for your allies, and that's pretty much it. The last one here is Thunder Charge. You call down bolts of lightning, charging you and your target's weapons. You and your target's weapons, do understand that. The cooldown recovery rate of all weapons is increased by 30% for 10 seconds. So if you have anybody with some pretty long cooldowns, this actually can see some use. 30% recovery on your Storm Strike would also be very useful. And, some of your other abilities, like your Feral Spirit, etc., these are useful abilities. So I can see Thunder Charge being very useful, but right now, Shamanism is the way to go. I mean, this thing's really cool. Really cool. And it's my personal favorite in terms of this tier. The 5th tier is an absolute disaster, and something needs to be changed there. But otherwise, for the most part, whether PvP talents are kind of lackluster, their PvE talents are phenomenal, and the overall redesign of the new Enhancement Shaman, where you sit there and enhance yourself, is freaking amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys get out there and try Enhancement Shaman. I love it, and I know you guys will love it. So I hope to see you guys in the next video. Tearless out.